There's only three things you can do with employees, right? You can tolerate them, you can train them, or you can terminate them.
So everything is done in 3D. We've essentially gamified architecture.
Walmart, I took a look at it. They said, wow, we can sell as many of these as you can manufacture.
So we are actually in every Walmart store throughout the US.
I'm Richard Gerhart.
And I'm Elizabeth Gerhart. You've just had a sneak peek at what's coming up later on the show. I got to tell you, it's a fabulous show.
I'm Richard Gerhart.
And I'm Elizabeth Gerhart.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the show that's all about entrepreneurs, inventors, and the intellectual property that helps them flourish. So, Elizabeth, I have two questions for you.
Is that all?
Well, the third question I really can't ask you on the air. But question number one, would you like to build a billion-dollar business?
Well, who wouldn't? I mean, it's a lot of work, but what else are you going to do?
Well, for sure. Our guest tonight, Dave Carvajal, will let you in on a few important secrets on how to do that. And question number two, would you like to build a better world?
Well, of course.
Well, this is your lucky day because we have Christian Giordano with us, and he's an architect. And so he will help literally you to build a better world.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you wish that our children, son especially, had been able to learn financial literacy through a game?
Yes, especially our son.
Yeah, so we have AlexisSamuels has the solution for that. And my second question for you is, can you help me pick this cat hair off my clothes? I just got this out of the dryer. So Michael Sweigart has
That's a big problem in
that.
our house. So
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that that's coming up. But
Yes.
before all of our guest fun, it's time for some intellectual property fun too. We have a little article here about an intellectual property case that shows you what happens when you steal somebody else's invention. And you can lose a lot of money if you do that. So let me tell you about the facts. There's a company called Nexus Technology that alleged that the defendants, get this, their name was Unlimited Power Limited. So who would pick a company name like that? I don't know, but Unlimited Power Limited. And they met with Nexus, and so Nexus started telling them all their technical secrets about a power processor.
Nexus hired them as a consultant.
Right.
So it was work for hire, right?
It was work for hire. So after Nexus gave them this information, right, Unlimited Power Limited went and filed patents in the name of their employee. And they had, one of the key parts about this was that they got the information, according to the court, deceptively. So after they filed the applications, they turned them over to a different company who turned around and had the audacity to sue Nexus.
And Nexus wouldn't have even known they'd stolen their ideas unless they sued them about their own ideas. That was crazy.
So Unlimited Power Limited sued Nexus, and Nexus turned it around on them, and they claimed wrongful and stolen intellectual property. And the jury found for them, and they were awarded $10 million in damages. And because the infringement was willful, the damages got trebled. And so they ended up owing Nexus $32 million. And I guess Unlimited Power Limited is now officially limited power because after losing $32 million, there's not a lot of power left. I'm pretty sure, but
yes, or no power. So the moral of the story. So it didn't say if there was a non-disclosure agreement, but you would think when you hire somebody to work with you, maybe you don't need one, but maybe you do. I mean, that they could have had one. It didn't say in the article that we read, but that would certainly have strengthened their case, right?
Right. And it's also about inventorship. So when you file a patent, you have to swear that you're the first original inventor. And if you get the idea from somebody else and try to patent it, you can't do that. It's against the law, and the patents would be held invalid. And if you are in court, it's considered a deceptive trade practice, and you can get hit with all sorts of damages. So our lesson for today is don't steal other people's patents.
Well, and protect
technology.
Yeah, protect yourself from getting ripped off too. So get those non-disclosure agreements, work with reputable people.
Right.
So there is a patent that we do want to talk about that is our patent palooza, our funny patent of the day. But this one's actually pretty cool. And it was issued on May 13th, 2014 to Gaetano Francesco Ruggiera from New York. And it was for a musical pizza box, which I think is so cool. And I'm thinking that he didn't develop it yet because in 2014, that was a lot harder to do. 7 years later, there's those cards you open in the grocery store, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing, but I'm just thinking of like all of the different things you could put as messages in those pizza boxes.
Yeah, I came up with, what was it? This pizza looks good, but don't be a pig. If you eat it all, you'll get too big or something.
What a buzzkill. I mean, you're looking forward to this pizza. You've been waiting 40 minutes and you get, if you eat this pizza, your cholesterol is going to go up 400 milligrams. But
I don't think that was the idea, though.
2,500 calories.
I think the idea.
It's like a pizza warning label, right?
I think the idea was happy birthday and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I would like, for example, maybe to hear AC/DC, Back in Black, you can open the pizza thing.
That works.
Yeah, okay.
I think that would be just absolutely awesome.
I would like you to do your roundtable and see what other people have to say about these stories.
I think it's time for the roundtable. So we're not actually sitting on a roundtable. We're on Zoom, but we'll pretend it's a roundtable. Dave, do you have any thoughts about what we've been talking about that you can say on the radio?
Yeah. Look, I think part of what makes this country so great is exactly some of the things that you touched upon, which is, I remember reading a book years ago about two very important things, private property and contract law, right? And so much is moving so fast, particularly with technology, that, I think it's absolutely critical that people protect their kind of their IP, but also, I love that the courts really kind of upheld this thing that is probably like the most fundamental thing in business and in human relationships, which is trust, right? I mean, I can't even believe that those people did that. But I'm glad that the courts like upheld, contract law and, did the right things there.
I couldn't agree with you more. Restores at least some confidence in the legal system. So Kristen, do you have any thoughts?
Actually, I have a question that I've always wanted to ask about this intellectual property. So it's something that I've heard. Is it true that if you have an idea that you ultimately want to patent, but you start talking about it more publicly or to other people, that there's a time that your timeline begins at that moment? Is that an actual, legal argument?
Yeah, that's a perfect recitation. So in the US, you have a 1-year grace period from the time that the idea is first publicly disclosed, and it can be disclosed in a conversation, in an investor pitch. There's one case where somebody modified an engine to a boat engine, outboard engine, and drove it around in public, and they considered that to be a public disclosure. So you're absolutely right that there is, but once you disclose it, the clock starts ticking. And if you have, if you want to consider international patent protection, then they don't give a 1-year grace period like the US does. It's once you disclose it, you essentially forfeit your right to file a patent in Europe or China or Japan. So you have to be very careful and use non-disclosure agreements wherever you can, because that prevents that problem. And it's usually best just to get your application on file as soon as you can. So,
right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Alexis.
My question was quite similar to Christian's. I've heard it said in the past that if you have an idea, you can write it down, put it in an envelope, postpaid, and mail it to yourself. Does that in some way protect you from those who might want to infringe upon your rights, your intellectual property right?
nobody on this program has ever asked me that question, and so I'm happy to answer it. It helps establish a date of invention, which for certain things can be important, but it doesn't give you any intellectual property rights. It only establishes a date of invention. So don't rely on that if you want to protect your idea.
Yeah, you have to file it with the patent office. So that's a good question because a lot of people have heard that.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you for that.
Michael?
Well, I have two things. A short story on the way to meet with my attorney for a patent. We had launched a website to sell our product. We hadn't sold any yet. But when I met with the attorney, he said, take the website down immediately. Do not sell a single product. From what I understand, as soon as you sell a product, it's no longer patentable because it's on the marketplace. So, we came pretty close to really not having the ability to patent a product. So that was a scary moment, but we literally took the website down, right away.
That's not exactly true.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good story, Michael. And fortunately, in the U.S., there is that 1 year grace period, but you do possibly forfeit your rights outside the rest of the world.
Right.
And when we say disclosure, could mean sale. It could mean poster at a scientific conference. It could be an advertisement. It's any way of putting the invention out in the public.
Right.
But that was great advice that you got.
Okay.
And yeah, it was absolutely fundamental that you maintain secrecy like you were advised by your attorney.
Yeah, we've had over to date, we've had a lot of intellectual property challenges, and we've had over 12,000 infringements that have been enforced through various websites over the past year and a half. Wow. So we've really been buried in counterfeits and people mostly from China ripping off the product or counterfeiting it. So we've worked really hard to make sure that our patents and our trademarks are locked in for the countries that we're selling in, just so we can really fight these battles when we need to, especially here in the US.
That's great, but it also shows you what a great product it is, right?
Yeah.
If everybody wants to copy it.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? So it sounds great. So Dave Carvajal is a repeat offender here at Passage to Profit. It's the second time he's been with us. And he's the builder of billion-dollar businesses, and his specialties include executive search and leadership development for some of the top tech sector companies. But not only that, Dave is also the author of the book, Hire Smart from the Start. And I've ordered the book because we're doing a lot of hiring right now, but maybe you can give us a little teaser of what the book's about. And
refresh us on that one page you told us about last time that everybody has to do in the book.
Yeah, page 97. So look, fundamentally, my thesis is that there is an A+ player for every role in every company, and every CEO should know this, right? Like, no company ever got great because they were amazing at payroll or benefits administration. The most strategic parts of HR are recruiting and culture, right? And so a lot about, what I talk about in the book is, really the thing that every CEO entrepreneur wants out of their company, out of their business, is high performance. Well, high performance requires high performance leadership. And what that looks like and what that means is for the CEO founder, the entrepreneur, to create alignment around the three most important things in business. And those are: 1, a common purpose; 2, shared values; and 3, clear objectives. And there's no better time to do that than right from the beginning, right? And so that's why we named my book Hire Smart from the Start. I think, it's an incredible time to really lay the foundation, and I really like some of the things that Christian mentioned before and is going to talk about, because, building a company really is like the architecture, right? You have to design it in advance, right? The mistake that most people make when hiring or recruiting is that, if they need an accountant, they'll just start interviewing accountants and hire the best one. Well, the problem with that is that you may hire the best one and still only get 40 or 50% of what you're looking for, right? The name of the game is to define in advance exactly who you're looking for. And the way you do that is on a one-pager, a blueprint, and that's page 97 of my book. It's not only knowing what to do, but knowing how to do it. Right. And I think, that's the name of the game, is really taking a strategic approach to organizational design.
Well, I have to, if I can just comment on that a little bit. We've been going through the hiring process lately. And for the first time, we've actually incorporated a COO and an HR person in the hiring process. And I was just shocked at how differently they viewed the candidates and what perspectives that they brought to the hiring process. As an attorney, I would have never asked a lot of the questions that they asked. And it really kind of opened my eyes to, what it takes to hire well. And I think having those, different perspectives makes a huge difference. Things as an attorney, I would have never thought about.
And I have to say too, that Richard did look at your book and read your book. And when he hired the COO that he has right now, this was one of the best hires that we've made in years, because this guy is just cleaning up problems left and right. I mean, he's amazing.
Right. But it's how do you even know what roles you should have in your organization? And if you're an entrepreneur starting out, maybe you're a solopreneur. And so how do you determine what is the first hire and what is the second hire and what is the third hire? How do you make those decisions?
Yeah, great. Okay, so two things. First, a camel is a horse designed by committee.
Love that.
Right. So the problem with just jumping in and starting to interview accountants because you need an accountant is exactly, what you were able to avoid, Richard, which is, everybody's got their own idea of the accountant that we should hire. Right. But unless you take the time and the energy and the effort in advance to sit down and talk about exactly who we're looking for, right, only then are you going to make the best hire, the right fit hire for your company, right? And on that page 97, I think it's really important to get absolute clarity around your core values, your culture, your mission, first and foremost, right? Mm-hmm. Then you get clarity around the role, and then you get clarity around the candidate, right? And so that's why it's important to lay out all those things on a one pager and make sure that the interview committee, the 4 people involved in, interviewing and hiring this person, that we're on the same page with what we're looking for, right? That we are in fact looking for a camel or a thoroughbred stallion, right? Whatever it is, just let's make sure we have an agreement on that.
One of the things I learned was asking the right questions and getting down into the detail, because a candidate may say, for example, I've done accounts receivable. And then you ask them, well, what kind of accounts receivable have you done? Well, I downloaded the reports and I sent them over here. So that's accounts receivable. And that's not the kind of accounts receivable I need. I need somebody who's going to call clients and form a relationship and reach out to them to find out if, to collect the money.
We've talked to people that don't even know how to download reports.
And so, you can't take it at face value. What they think accounts receivable is what you need, right? So it's asking the right questions to really understand what their experience is.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. To your other point, Richard, about, how do you figure out this notion of organizational design and who you need to hire first, second, or third? I think that, and one of the things I talk about in my book is this concept of organizational self-determination, right? It's really the basis of organizational design, which is one of the exercises that I have my CEO clients do is project out 10 years. What is it that you want to be true about your business, about your company 10 years from now? If everything goes great, if everything is successful, what is that vision? I think everything begins with a vision, right? And then you create that purpose and you align and use that purpose as the basis for all your recruiting, your promotions, and your terminations of employees, right? Is people that are going to help you achieve that mission. They're not only going to be successful in their job, but they're going to be capable of helping us achieve our great mission.
Well, that's a fantastic point. And looking into the future and building toward that, start with the end in mind, is a great way to go about doing things. And it's funny, I've been in the business world now for over 30 years, and some people have been talking about those kinds of things, but I also can say I worked for organizations where none of that was clear, and the organizations were unclear and they were confused. And now it seems that people are really taking that message seriously and constructing companies around those principles, and they're much more effective. And I think that's part of the growth that comes from, or why you see so many companies growing so quickly now. It's the productivity tools, but it's also better organization and better management than, a lot of companies that existed in the past.
You coach executives as well as you help executives find positions in new companies. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's slightly different. So one, yes, I generally get brought in by the chairman of the board, somebody at the board level who writes a big check. Usually it's 20, 40, $50 million into a high growth company. And they ask me to build out the executive board and leadership teams of these companies the right way. Right? These are folks that don't have time to lose. They've got such an enormous market opportunity in front of them, and they cannot afford to make a bad hire. A bad hire will trip them up or delay their go-to-market strategy or their ability to grab market share. And so, the stakes are incredibly high. They can't afford to get it wrong. And so they generally call us to come in like a strike force, like a Navy SEALs team, and just get it done for them, right? Sometimes it's 1, 2, 3 executives. Sometimes it's 3 executives and a team of 10, product and enterprise salespeople, for example. And so that's one thing we do. And then the second thing I do is I have a coaching program, because no CEO founder has ever been classically trained on how to do this thing, recruiting and culture building and really company building, right? It's not even taught at the top MBA programs, right? Yet it's like the most critical, most important aspect of building a business is getting the right people onto your team. And they're out there, right? Like the awesome and amazing people that every CEO needs for their company, they're out there, right? They're just not sitting on a couch eating potato chips, looking at job postings on the internet. They are, at a minimum, they are actively engaged in something that they find, even mildly interesting. And somebody's got to go in, extract them, get their attention, engage them in a conversation, right? Just so that we can put them through an evaluation process. And that's got to be done many times over. Mm-hmm. And so that's why they kind of hire our expertise to go in and help them do that, to build out their executive leadership teams, their boards, with people that have the proven experience that can 10x their company, usually get them from about 20 million in revenues or 20 million in funding to about 200, 300 million in revenues.
Wow.
So how do you weed out those people that can't do it? Because Richard's had his law firm for 15 years. I've been involved the whole time. And we've had people out and out lie to us about what they can do. And we've given them little tests. We've done this, that, the other thing, but we don't really know how to weed out those people that really can't do the job, but are pretending they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a great question. And look, I will say, Elizabeth, you're not alone, right? This is the challenge. It's hard. People are actively incentivized to deceive you. Mm-hmm. Right? Because like money is on the line, their security, their certainty, their careers are on the line, right? And so there is an active incentive for people to deceive you. And so, a lot about what I talk in my book here is exactly that. It's about learning to have a recruitment, a hiring conversation about learning how to have the dialogue to be able to vet against the things that we have defined on our one pager, on our blueprint, right? It's something we call a core fit selection blueprint. You want to make sure that the people you hire are aligned with your core purpose, your core values, right? And the core competencies to not only be successful in the role, but really to help you achieve your mission, who are going to be able to execute with the right values, right? Who are not going to piss off other employees, who are not going to go against the both the written and unwritten rules about how we operate and how we treat each other, right? And who are going to be able to, not just play the game, help us win, but do so in a way that, increases our culture.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if I could ask a question, if you're an entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, small company, and you want to apply this approach, but you really can't afford, a consulting firm to help you with this, how can you do this? And if, one of the challenges solopreneurs have is finding people to help them, but it's a small company, right? And so you may not have a reputation, you may not have, $30 million of investment funding. How do you get people to participate when you don't have a lot of, traction yet?
Yeah, I love it. Look, and I will say that that's the reason I wrote the book, right? 206 pages here. It's exactly for those people, right? And I would say, first and foremost, the process is the same, right? Project out 10 years to create your vision, create your purpose, and then reverse engineer, right? And I go through a whole process in my book on exactly how to do that and the steps to take in between, but it involves looking out 10 years, then a shorter period, like 3 years, right? And then 1 year. And you want to get clear on what your strategic objectives are for the next 12 months. What are the top 3 or 4 things that are going to help drive my business successfully, right? Only by getting clear on those strategic priorities, strategic objectives, can we then get clear on the success factors that this person that we're going to hire, whether it's employee number 2 or a partner or a co-founder, right? Only then can we get clear on what will they help to accomplish, what will they get to achieve that is going to move us closer to those strategic priorities, right? By getting clear on those 2 things, the strategic priorities, the success factors, can we then get clear on the third thing, which is then what are the core competencies necessary for them to be successful in the role that they're going to play, whether it's a chief technology officer or a chief marketing officer, right? But then also, because we've done the top part about the core values of the culture, the mission, this person will not only be successful in their role, but they'll help us to achieve our mission.
Kenya, do you have a question?
I do. I have a question / comment. Everything that you're talking about for me describes what Tom Brady was able to do recently, right? So he was with the Patriots for a long time, went to a whole new team. Culture was different there. He was able to shift the paradigm and, led these guys to the Super Bowl. So my question for you is, if you're a high performance leader, can you transform low performance employees?
Wow.
Good one.
That's a great question. That is fantastic. And I will tell you, there is no shortage of people and leaders who try to do that. I would say this, and I talk about this in my book. There are A players, B players, and C players. A players are defined by 2 things. One, they execute consistent with your core values. And secondly, they're able to, what I call GSD, get stuff done, right? They're able to actually execute at a high level, right? And A players are the absolute best. C players are the best also because they're terrible. They either don't have your core values or they can't get stuff done. And they're fantastic because you can identify that quickly and you never have to talk to them ever again. Right? So get them out of your organization. But the people that you will spend the most time, the people that will suck you down and they will strip you of your energy, your mojo, like you'll spend the most amount of time trying to fix them, are your B players. And there are two kinds of B players. There are B positive and B negative. B positive are the people that live your core values, but they might be falling short on the technical hard skills. They might be falling a little bit short on their ability to execute, right? Your B minus people are actually people who are able to execute, right? They might be really smart or really capable technically, but they're not living up to the core values, right? The first question is, number one, can you afford to invest the time, energy, and effort involved to get them to become an A player? Like, do you even have the time, energy, and effort? A lot of situations where, that I'm in, they don't have time to train people, right? Like, they've got to hire people that are capable and, hitting the ground running and are going to do it living up to the core values. So my argument is, first, decide whether you have the time, energy, and effort to do it. If you don't, then you don't have any business being involved with B players. You need to go out and hire A players. Look, there's only three things you can do with employees, right? You can tolerate them, you can train them, or you can terminate them. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I would say that if you do have the time, energy, and effort, the B players that you want on your team are the ones that have the core values, and then you can give them the technical training. Technical skills are much easier to teach than core values, right? People either have or they don't your core values, but it doesn't work the other way around. The people who have, some companies I work with have a strict no jerks policy, and it's because they've spent too much time, energy, and effort where they've hired people who are incredibly bright or, have incredible technical skills, but they're really hard to be around, right? They piss off other employees or they piss off clients, or they just don't play by the values, in the organization. And those generally are the people that will take you down. Everything bad that happens at a company is fundamentally a people problem, right? It's the thing that took down Enron. It took down, Lloyd's Bank, which financed the Louisiana Purchase, right? Like over 120 years old bank in England. Everything bad is typically, someone that is not living up to the core values.
I agree 100% with that. There has been one issue we've kind of faced. For some people, it seems like it's really hard to get them to learn basic tech skills, like how to use new software. Do you run into that? I mean, what do you do with somebody that just can't figure that out?
Sounds like a C player to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really aligned with you, but if you tell them, come on Zoom at 10 o'clock, they can't ever get their Zoom to work, or, just simple things like that the rest of us take for granted.
Sure. Look, I think there's always two things. People who are not effective in the job, it's either because they can't or they won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't is a little bit easier to fix. So first you've got to figure out, is it a can't problem or is it a won't problem? If it's a won't problem, which, being on time for a thing is typically a won't problem. Right. Then it's a question of tolerate or terminate.
Dave, this was great. Like, really getting to the heart of what makes a business function well and how to build $1 billion business. You really do have all the knowledge. So,
and I enjoy his passion, and he's a very
emphatic.
That was the word I was looking for. He's very emphatic.
Like I said, I talk more.
You're better at it for sure. Very emphatic about it, and it really makes the message very powerful.
But so in your 15 years of experience, he's exactly right. You're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest, Dave Carvajal, with his book, Hire smart from the start. And we will be right back after these messages.
Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt. If you missed our first segment with Dave Carvajal, please check out our podcast or our YouTube channel. Fantastic information. It was really a pleasure listening to him.
This guy knows his stuff. Like, if you're an entrepreneur starting a business, if you're trying to raise your business to the next level, I mean, Dave knows how to do all of that.
And what's so amazing is that he created a system for entrepreneurs where they can reach out to him and help him have him help build the teams, which
is so important, especially getting investor money, right?
And getting the whole team together. So even if a CEO doesn't have a lot of experience doing that, Dave can help. So on to our next guest. Our executive spotlight this evening is Christian Giordano, and he is an architect, and he's the president of the firm Mancini and Duffy, and he's our executive spotlight tonight. He believes that the world of architecture and design is due for a reinvention, and he believes his team is the way to go about doing that. So welcome to the show, Kristen. It's really great to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about your firm.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So yeah, I'm an architect, and really we've figured out a way of working with our clients differently from other architects. So with using technology, we've recreated the process. So we invite our clients into that process from the very beginning, from day one. They sit either in our computer lab here, an actual R&D lab that we've created in New York City, or we've adapted that for COVID so we can do everything virtually online. And you're immersed in our process immediately. So everything is done in 3D. We've essentially gamified architecture for our clients. So we begin using some artificial intelligence, some scripting languages on the back end, and we can start designing. So if you've got a restaurant that you want to lay out, you have a space in mind, we can quickly put you in this system. You can put on VR goggles, and we will begin to design that within minutes around you. And using that AI intelligence, we can lay out the tables. We can tell you exactly how many people are going to fit. We can tell you how big the kitchen needs to be by code. And all the while, it's building the infrastructure that's required per code. So the stairs, the elevators, the bathroom counts, things like that. And you walk away from our process within an hour or two with really a rough sketch and a rough idea of what it is that you can accomplish. Then we spend the next week or so refining that, actually beginning to conceptually design it, come back around to that client, and they come back into this system and they see it again. And by iterating this over and over again, we can do what a normal architect does in 3 months, we can do in 3 weeks time. It really moves that process along, and you're getting a rendering or a virtual experience or a walkthrough all right there, sort of free of charge in a sense, because it's a byproduct of how we're working.
That's amazing. If anyone has the chance, they should go to your website, the Mancini and Duffy website. You've got some just gorgeous buildings that you've created and some marvelous works that you've done.
Thank you.
Really, really inspiring. And I'm sort of an architectural aficionado. And so I really appreciate beautiful building design. And some of the stuff you guys have done has just been outstanding.
Thank you. Yeah, the firm's been around for 100 years. It was a firm that, I had come over about 10 years ago, and essentially through a few different happenings, I ended up purchasing the firm from the previous ownership. So myself and some other younger partners really saw that opportunity. It's funny when you ask, people that are close to that retirement age, hey, what do you think about retiring? And they say, well, make me an offer and I'll retire. It's funny how many people are actually looking to retire. I had no idea. I always tell, architects, approach your boss, ask them what their plans are. You might be surprised what you get out of it. And from there, we've recreated the culture. I mean, much similar to what Dave spoke about. We actually did hire a coach, a Vern Harnish coach. I'm sure you know who Vern Harnish is. And he took us through very similar exercises around culture and hiring and making sure that our purpose and our 30-year plan, our 10-year plan, our 5-year plan, our 1-year plan was really set in stone. And so that we had something to guide us. And that is really what led us through this process and discovering this technology.
Well, Christian, this is phenomenal. A few years ago, we gutted the whole building, the law firms in, and redid it and had an architect and everything. But I had a real hard time envisioning how the space would look, how to move. I don't do 3D envisioning it well at all. Some people do. To be immersed in it in a VR module would just be phenomenal. Like I just want to build something now to do it. So I can do that with you. So do you
put another project on our list, build a new building.
Yeah. So you do just commercial? Do you do residential? Do your clients come from?
So we're mostly commercial. Mancini Duffy is known for commercial office interiors, frankly, but we're really a national firm. And over the last 5 to 8 years, we've really expanded our market sector. So we do a lot of hotels. We've even expanded into industrial and distribution, which is a hot market for us now. And there's some interesting problems to be solved there. And especially using the technology in those types of facilities really helps move that process along. And then, we do new buildings. We do some residential buildings. We don't do single family homes or things like that. It's usually a commercial type setting, but we've done many a law firm. And I can tell you along those lines that is, much of the reason why we created this technology is because for us, the architect can move pretty fast. The problem is getting those decisions and getting consensus along the way that holds a project up. So if we can get you all as the owners and as the decision makers to see what we're seeing right off the bat, then you're able to make those decisions. And as you said, it's hard. People don't visualize things. Even looking at a rendering isn't exactly as successful as being immersed into a 3D environment. And within this environment, you can move the chairs around, you can move the desks around, you can change the window sizes. I mean, there's all of these component parts are easily manipulated to create a better environment.
It's almost like playing that computer game, The Sims, but with VR. Dave, do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, look, I love the conversation. Architecture is one of those things that transcends and really brings together a number of things, including math, science, art, culture. And so it's like a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'd love to know, Christian, what are maybe some of the greats that have inspired you? Maybe, one or two kind of the classics, maybe not currently living. And then maybe what are one or two that are living today that are really, doing some of the best work? Particularly, I love this notion of using technology, right, to advance the field even more, whether it's environmental or even through the use of new construction materials.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I don't get asked that very often. So I love kind of thinking about the history of architecture. So I would say that my favorite architect is a person by the name of Louis Kahn, who he probably died at least 20 years ago, maybe even more at this point, really known as a classical architect. He didn't do very many buildings, but he did some very significant ones. And one of them was the Salk Institute in California, in San Diego, and where Jonas Salk, hired him after creating the polio vaccine. And what I think gravitated me towards him was, in fact, this technology. He really thought about the building as a piece of technology and how those labs were to function. He's the first architect to create interstitial space, meaning space behind walls that you could go in and make modifications and changes to, thinking about flexibility. Hey, I build this building's going to last for hundreds of years. Why do I have to knock it down? Can I build in a certain amount of flexibility along the way so that people can adapt? As technology changes, well, the building can change as well. And that building still exists today and functions as a lab for the Salk Institute. And it's a beautiful building. And then current architects, there's an architect, Frank Gehry, who when I specifically, when I went to graduate school, I moved out to Los Angeles to be taught by Frank Gehry and ultimately work with him. He really is an advanced architect, and for someone who's probably now well into his 80s is still the most revolutionary architect that's ever existed, doing buildings and forms that are unlike any other building you've seen. You've probably seen the Bilbao in Spain, the Guggenheim there. But again, he used technology to create these forms. So he would think of these forms, he would sculpt them out of clay or mesh or something in his studio. And then there was no way to get that vision into the computer, which is really the way we've been building for the last 20 years. So he invented a system to scan it and really created what's called a building information modeling. And that's a system that really all architects use today because of him. So he's had an impact on an architectural history point of view and an artistic point of view, but then also on how we actually perform our business.
That's amazing. Kenya, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. So I'm encouraged to hear that you're an architect. My daughter is 15. She wants to be an architect as well. And she's already taken engineering courses. So I'm super excited to just hear your story and your journey. And just really quick. So, obviously there's a lot of remote working that's going on right now. I see you've adapted in terms of like how you design in regards to COVID and the effects of that. How has your industry been affected? Right? That's the first part of my question. The second part is, have any of the design adaptations been altered in order to keep up with COVID restrictions or COVID compliance?
Sure. Great question as well. So the architecture industry, specifically in New York on the corporate side, has definitely been hurt. I'm not going to pretend. And, us here at our firm, we're about 75 people. We've been lucky because we're diversified in terms of the types of projects. So large projects that we're doing a tower in Times Square. It's a $2 billion project. It's too far along. We're 3 years into a 7-year project. It wasn't going to stop no matter what was happening. So thankfully, we've been good all along, and we made a commitment to our people here. We've spent 8 years at this firm, 9 years building this staff. The last thing we wanted to do was lose anybody. So we made a commitment to keep everybody's jobs. And thankfully, we've been able to get through this period, and we are busy again, which is great. Most architecture firms in the New York, New Jersey area are certainly picking back up, which is great news. We want everyone to do well. It means the market's doing well. But what I will say is for COVID, we've had to adapt the way we work. We are a very collaborative environment, especially on the design side. Designers need to get together. They need to touch and feel materials. They need to put materials together. We were doing projects, we were literally mailing, tile samples or brick samples back and forth to each other to compile things, and then taking pictures and mailing them to clients. It was a little crazy. Thankfully, we've adjusted the way we now come to the office. So there's heads down time, and then there's collaborative time. Going forward, though, it's really a bit of an unknown. We're seeing clients all over the place. So a lot of our corporate interiors projects, some of them have said in January, we're coming back and we're going to all be in the office 100%. Others have said, we really don't know what to do. We don't know where we're going to fit. I think we'll end up somewhere in between. I think we'll end up with a hybrid model where you're working from home a few days a week and you're coming into the office a few days a week. But it just means that the office environment has to be even more special. There has to be a reason to come to the office, not just for the people, but also your physical environment, the way you work. The technology now has to be seamless. We have to be able to do a Zoom call from our desk, from a conference room, from a huddle room, from all different aspects of the office. And it's actually an exciting time, I think, for the corporate office world. And I think what's different now is that before we followed a trend, sort of every company wanted to know what the other company was doing, and well, that's what we should do. We are finally back into a place where we can talk to the company and say, well, what is your culture? What do you want to do? What do your people actually do at work? Do they really need to be there? When they come to work, what do they need to do? How do they interact? And rather than following a trend, we can actually design an office space that works specifically for a company, which is, you'd be surprised, over the last probably 20 years, we just kind of replicate the latest thing that Google did, or in our case, we did Peloton. So what Peloton did, we replicated that for many clients. So it's a great time for the corporate office environment. Even though it's sort of a little bit on the downside, it's certainly coming back, which is great news.
That is good news. And I'm thrilled with the way that you use technology to take the profession a step forward. And we've worked with architects on occasion, and it's basically got the guy with the pencil behind his ear, right? And he's got these big rollout plans, and it takes 5 times longer than it was supposed to take. There's even the joke about the lottery winner who is an architect. And what are you going to do with the money? Well, I'm going to keep practicing architecture until the money runs out, right? So, but you've got a new system, an efficient system, and you're really bringing architecture to a whole new level. And I hope that this is, without losing your competitive advantage, at least some of these concepts are working their way into the profession as a whole, so that residential owners can also take advantage of some of these improvements. But
agreed, yeah.
Yeah, because if we ever build another house, like a retirement home, that's what I want to use. I want to get on that VR and start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much difference to be in the room, right? You get a sense of the space, and does this really work? It could look great on paper, but everything that's shown to me on paper always looks smaller when it's actually built.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Sense of what it's really going to be like.
Yep. Yeah, and there's no lying when you do this and when you work in this process, because we're using the actual space that we're going to be designing for you. We've had clients before that have wanted to market their space, and just as an example, in Jersey City, the owner said, "Hey, can you put the Statue of Liberty in this view? And hey, can you put it in this view? And can you put it in this view too?" And the next thing you know, all 4 views looking out all 4 sides of the building had the Statue of Liberty. With this process, you're in the building. There's no lying about where the Statue of Liberty is. We geomap it, and there it is, and that's your view, and we can figure it out from that point on.
Christian has graciously donated to Students to Science, that's the number 2, for being on the show as our executive spotlight. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Christian.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart on WOR 710, the Voice of New York. We'll be right back. Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart on iHeartRadio. And we have just had 2 fabulous presentations packed full of knowledge, new technology. If you want to hear them, listen to our podcast, which comes out tomorrow. If you want to see the people on the show, I always say this, but it's true. We always get really good looking people on this show. So go to our YouTube channel, Passage to Profit Show.
I'll take that as a compliment.
And now we're on to AlexisSamuels. And I have to say, if you could make it fun for your kids to learn how to handle money, would you do it? Well, you should, and Alexis will show you how. So welcome, Alexis.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real privilege to be on your show today.
Yes. So tell us all about what you're doing.
Well, we're excited to offer a financial literacy app that incorporates artificial intelligence, gamification to make it fun. Many are unaware of the fact that financial literacy underpins many important foundations in society, whether it's your health, access to good food, good housing, job opportunities. All of these things, including mental health, are all tied to financial literacy. Those who are unable to acquire good money management skills often are unable to gain access to these very important matters that will make a big difference in where you finish, in life. Many years ago, first began developing tabletop learning systems. In fact, the first one in which we developed we were invited to introduce it to Walmart. After Walmart took a look at it, they said, "Wow, we can sell as many of these as you can manufacture." But we were very concerned about really making a difference within underserved communities. And so we felt rather than selling it on a retail basis at the time, we would allow those within various organizations, whether it be community groups or even the school systems, to promote the learning system. And so we decided to take it to schools. Right now, we're in about 18 different states. We've been accepted within the New York City school system, in New Jersey, and California, and Phoenix, Arizona, in a number of different locations. Many are unaware of the fact that about 45 states now mandate that financial literacy be taught to their high schools before they can graduate. And so we incorporate curriculum inside our literacy systems. And by those school systems throughout the country and the kids playing our games, they actually can qualify for that state mandate as well.
And what's the name of your system?
It's called the Road to Prosperity Learning System. That's the tabletop version. In fact, we might as well just show you display a copy of it for you.
Okay. Oh, I like the cover.
Yeah. So for our audience at home, that's the it's a beautifully designed cover, and it looks it's very intriguing. So
it's kind of like Passage to Profit, only it's a road to prosperity.
That's right.
So yes. Alexis, how do you make it fun?
Yeah, when it comes to math and finance, it's not one of those topics that youth often engage with. So we incorporate gamification. Gamification, you remember when we were all young, many of the things in which we learned through competitions or repetition. And so we incorporate game algorithms inside the actual learning process. For example, as the game progresses, the goal is to be the first to acquire $1 million in assets, in cash within their bank accounts. But at the same time, it incorporates credit scores. So when one begins to play, they begin with a 680 credit score. They have to be able to navigate through life's consequences, make adult decisions, and all of the increases and or decreases to their credit scores, all is based upon various educational components in financial literacy.
Wow. So you take you really use the credit score as the barometer of how well they're doing, and the winner is the one who gets the highest credit score, but just by applying certain financial tasks. So for what kinds of examples of financial tasks are you providing?
Well, quite a bit. For example, real estate is a major component within the learning system because we also have incorporated real law and finance processes within the game. We're teaching those that want to participate in real estate the importance of having and owning, perhaps their own portfolio. And so in order to acquire property, they'll need to have 20% down in cash. They'll be able to actually have the right credit score in order to qualify for a mortgage or to buy property. And to move into various neighborhoods, they have to continue to increase their cash values or their credit score values. So we're teaching responsible financial management. You remember what it was like back in 2007 with the foreclosure crisis, where you can acquire a 100% mortgage, and yet banks were looking in the opposite direction as to whether you really qualified. And then what happened? Many of these ended up losing those homes. And so the learning system helps to remap one's values so that if they had bad habits in the past, by learning through playing with gamification, they're often able to replace those values with good ones.
Obviously, you're extremely passionate about this, to pass up Walmart and go into schools. And I think that ties into your own personal story, which we discussed earlier. So could you please relate that story to our audience now?
Sure. Well, I was raised downtown Brooklyn in, I would say, a poor neighborhood, but I recognized that I deserved more. I had a go-get-em spirit. And so this was during the early part of the integration process. I'm dating myself now, going way back to the early 70s. And I was allowed to go to a neighborhood where the educational opportunities were a little bit better than those offered initially. I was invited to take a test, came in second in the grade, and was given a job on Wall Street at the age of 15 in the international trade marketplace. So that exposed me right away to various economies. This was even before the economic community was formed. And so everything was about currency adjustment factors and buying and selling, converting currencies, clearing customs. So I had to learn all of those things early on. What was unfortunate for the company I was working for became quite a blessing to me, because I was able to start my own business when they went out of business, doing the exact same thing. And since then, over 40 years now, I'm still doing it. I've involved myself in law, 20-year paralegal, and real estate management. So during the foreclosure crisis, I had a radio show in New York City on a different radio station and was able to take call-ins and answer questions, to the point where I was pulled so thin, I realized I would have to come up with a product that could sit on the kitchen tables of every family in America and teach them the importance of financial values. And it's been quite successful ever since.
What are some of the things, as you look out into the marketplace, Alexis, there's so many opportunities. Well, what are some of the things that are really lighting you up these days?
What I've realized is that technology is a very, very important part of today's economy. Therefore, when COVID-19 hit, especially, schools began shutting down. There was no face-to-face learning going on. And superintendents across the country began asking me if I can translate our learning systems that were offline primarily to an online experience. And so we decided to develop an app. And we're well into that process right now. The app is called FinLitX, and it can be found at FinLitX.com. It is an app that teaches some 21 different categories of financial management. It incorporates artificial intelligence, gamification, relational learning, and predictive learning. So because it's an autonomous app, it doesn't require a school system to have a teacher sitting with the student in order to teach them financial literacy. The student logs in under the supervision of the school, and they take a pre-assessment to determine what they currently know, and then they begin playing. 3 different levels of financial literacy. There are rewards associated with playing. So students are able to earn points and gifts and rewards, including cryptocurrency, as they play.
Cryptocurrency or fake cryptocurrency?
Real cryptocurrency, whether it's
okay, so that's pretty cool.
You're using Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
We're actually introducing our own token also. It'll be called the RTP, Road to Prosperity token, on the Ethereum blockchain. And yet, while they'll be rewarded with that as they play, they can also acquire fractional shares of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency as well. Our motto is financial literacy for a digital world. Wow. We can't teach how to fill out a check. While we'll include that inside the curriculum, but when you open a bank account today, how many checks do the banks give you? And how many of us, particularly youth coming out of school, know how to fill out a check or will ever have to? We took a survey. We asked a number of youth when's the last time you filled out a check, or how many have you filled out within the last year? And all of them said 0.
Wow.
Yeah, that's our daughter. She said, I owe you some money, but I can't write you a check because I don't have any.
You have Venmo. She
Yeah.
she won't call a pizza parlor too. She'll only order online.
Yeah.
It's all digital.
Yeah, I know Kenya has something to say here.
I need to play this game first and foremost.
Yes.
Because I know nothing about cryptocurrency or any of that other stuff. And you think about this new age of technology and all these different, ways of money's being accounted for, right? Like it seems so foreign. And I wish, one of the things I wish as a kid I would have learned is, credit management and all those important things.
Yes.
So I know you said, so there is a school curriculum for this?
Yes, it qualifies also with state mandates. We have 2 versions of the app, one for the school systems, which we call the institutional version, which can also be used by global organizations, membership organizations, community groups, etc. As well, we have a consumer version of the app that the average person, whether they be a young person, usually starting at about 6 or 7 years old, very, very young. And we have those that are 70 and 80 years old that are also, playing our learning systems.
Do you have like department store cards? Because those are the worst, right? I mean, they're just tempting.
Yeah.
And you get points, which makes you think like you're getting free stuff. And
Oh, look, I saved $200 today.
You can do a lot of damage with those.
Well, the wonderful thing too is we also issue a debit card along with the game. It's not only important to learn financial literacy, but it's also important to be able to apply what you're learning immediately. So in that way, it empowers our communities, not only with knowledge, but to actually change their lives and their trajectory. Very important.
Christian, do you have any thoughts or comments on what's been going on here?
I think it's wonderful. I as an architect, one thing that you are definitely not taught about is the business side of architecture, the company side of architecture, and especially the finances. And if I had this kind of introduction to it early on, I think I probably wouldn't have made the mistakes that I've made along the way, for sure. I'm also excited to get my kids involved in something like this. And as same with us, right? The gamification of architecture, the gamification of financial, it really is where everything is headed. Not headed, it's here. We're already past that point of where it's going. So, but I will say I still do not understand blockchain and crypto. I invest in it. I'm not sure what I'm investing in, but I just do, and hoping it's kind of like the lottery for me right now.
Yeah.
And we're also involved in the pre-IPO in order to expand and scale. It's very important that we be able to expand this to all communities throughout the country. So being involved in this pre-IPO enables us to be able to do that also.
Excellent.
So pre-IPO, what does that mean? So,
well, an IPO is an initial public offering, which is typically well known as the means by which corporations raise funds in order to organize themselves, grow themselves. Dave referred to the importance of being able to bring on board qualified executive management. Usually there's a price tag that comes along with that. And so corporations regularly raise funds through initial public offerings. Small businesses, through laws that have recently been refined through crowdfunding, use SEC, or Securities and Exchange Commission, laws to be able to raise funds. And so our company right now, Brain Game Learning Systems, is taking advantage of those opportunities. And it enables us to scale and to continue to develop the apps in which we are currently distributing, to our marketplace.
Well, Alexis, it's just been fantastic speaking with you. You're doing great work out there. We're so happy that these tools are available, and you're also a Gerhardt Law client. So yes. I just wanted to say thank you for that. And we'll be on to our final presenter. Don't go away. You're going to be learning about the fur zapper. And we'll be back right after this message.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York. We've had 3 incredible conversations so far with just amazing entrepreneurs, people that have made it big, great advice if you're an entrepreneur or any type of business person.
I've learned so much on this show.
I always do.
Yeah.
So if you missed it, that's okay. It's on our podcast, which will come out tomorrow. It's also on our YouTube channel, which will come out tomorrow. I would encourage you to go hear what these people have to say, because these are really great business people. Now we are on to our final presenter, sort of. Kenny and I'll go after him, but it's Michael Sweigart. And I got to tell you, I am getting this product. I love this product. If you have a pet and you don't want pet hair sticking all over your clothes all the time, Michael has the product for you. So welcome, Michael. Tell us all about it.
Richard and Elizabeth, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So I invented the product, which is now called Fur Zapper, several years ago. And it's the world's only pet hair remover for your laundry. So it's a patented pet hair remover that solves a problem that pretty much every pet owner has. Pet owners have a big problem, and that's you wash and dry your clothes, you pull them out of the dryer, and they're still covered in pet hair. So a few years ago, as a work-at-home dad for, I guess, 15 years or so, I was the laundry guy. And very often I would pull the clothes out of the dryer and they'd still be covered in pet hair. So with 2 dogs and a cat in the house, it became quite a burden to then lint roll each piece of laundry. So I sort of accidentally came up with this product, really just out of some other hobbies that I had, and just refined it and found the right formula to make a product that would really remove the pet hair from your laundry. So so far there's never been anything like this, and we've been fortunate enough to really create a market and disrupt an existing market as well.
And it's a little disc that you throw in the washer or dryer, right?
Right. Our top selling item is a Fur Zapper 2-pack. So they're 2 like round discs, a little bit bigger than a hockey puck. They have a paw print shape on them, so they're for pets. And what you do is you just throw them both in your washer while you wash your laundry. Transfer the laundry over to the dryer, include the Fur Zappers in there. And as it's tumbling through your laundry, it's actually a really soft, tacky silicone that's a skin-safe, hypoallergenic material. So it grabs onto the pet hair, it dislodges it from the clothes, and then it washes it down the drain or just deposits itself right in your lint trap. So there's really no additional
fantastic
work.
I'm dying to know what kinds of hobbies you had that led you to this invention, but we'll just leave that for now. I guess I'm kind of curious what your marketing strategy is going forward. Are you selling primarily online or also in brick and mortar stores?
We're both. We've really done well on a lot of the online sites like Amazon, Target.com, Bed Bath & Beyond's website, and sites like the Grommet or Zulily. But we've really, our first customer, believe it or not, our first big customer is Walmart. So we are actually in every Walmart store throughout the U.S.
Wow. So Dave, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating business. I was going to ask about distribution channel, but the big question is, manufacturing and distribution, the challenge can often be operating cash flow and how you kind of manage both levers, the push and the pull of, kind of like creating the enough inventory that you can distribute, but then having that sell so you can get the money back so that you can create even more product. How do you go about kind of managing those two almost opposing forces, Michael, and the tension there? That's
a really good question. And it is part of our everyday challenges that we're dealing with, from the beginning a few years ago until now. So, we sold a lot of product over the years. We've managed to work some really good contracts with our manufacturers that give us some terms on payment. So that kind of floats our money a little bit longer. And we try to obviously not give the customers that owe us money too much terms as well. So, but yes, that is a challenge, especially as we're stocking up and building inventory. we can only build it so much before running out of money. So it is a real life challenge. So it's a balance. It's something we look at on a weekly basis. We check, sell-throughs and inventory counts. We look at monthly and yearly trends. The product sells really big on the holidays, so we try to ramp up the inventory, several months leading up to that as well.
Yeah, stocking stuffer as long as it doesn't get stuck in the stocking, right?
Right.
So Christian, did you have a comment or question?
I'm just curious, how did you figure this out? Do you have a degree in chemical engineering? Is there, what motivated you to put silicone, inside your laundry? Because it's something that I wouldn't have thought of ever.
Right. Well, it's a really interesting story, at least I think it is. So I am not, I don't have a degree in anything chemistry related. I've been in advertising for the past 20 years. I've owned a couple small advertising agencies and marketing firms, mostly online marketing. So one of my many hobbies, I had done some work in sort of like the special effects side of business. So I worked at Six Flags and Fright Fest. So I'm out here making zombie masks and painting people up just because it's fun and it was interesting to learn. So simultaneously, as I'm doing laundry, I'm realizing that there's pet hair all over everything. And I'm looking online. I'm asking friends and family, like, how do you solve this? Like, there has to be something that takes us off there. And I tried everything available. People recommended rolling up foil balls and throwing them in your dryer or tying rubber gloves together. People had a lot of crazy ideas. So one day I was actually working in my workshop area with a silicone mask, and I dropped it on the floor and I picked it up and it was filled with pet hair because my pets were always down there. I said, wait a minute. So I actually threw a zombie mask into the washer and transferred it into the dryer and found out that it was really effective at grabbing onto the hair and dislodging it. And to date, that was, up before the finalization of this product, that was the best solution I had. So once I found out that silicone had the right properties, meaning it's really a fire protected product, it's not going to burn or melt. Plus it's very skin safe and doesn't have any allergies. I really just worked on finding the right formula. So I wanted it to be soft and pliable. I wanted it to roll around with your laundry and interact with it and pull the hair out. But I also wanted it to be tacky, not so tacky where it just grabs every hair and sticks to it, but enough where it dislodges the hair. So that wasn't a matter of chemistry to me. That was a matter of let me order every variation of silicone I can get and just throw them all up against the wall and literally see what sticks.
Awesome. That's great.
Well, and it's a message for our inventors out there that this could be you. Sometimes we find things that kind of surprise us and solve a problem that we really didn't know. But it was interesting to hear about how this was created and look at what's come of it. So.
And let's talk about market size for a minute. How many people just in this country own pets and do their own laundry?
Well, there are about 76 million dog owners in the US, households, and there's about 68 million cat owners. So there's quite a few just in the US alone. So the market's phenomenally large, and there are very few non-shedding animals that people take into their homes. There are a few. But typically every household needs this because they don't even know there's a solution or they need to find something for it. We're just on the shelf and they see it and they buy it.
Have you thought about any of like the home shopping network kinds of programming to sort of, for advertising purposes?
Well, we've been on Shop HQ recently, and we've also been on QVC 4 times.
Great.
So we've done really well on that and some overnight spots as the testing goes. Great. So that's done extremely well.
Excellent. Well, I know it's something I'll definitely use. I mean, I can pull a black sweater because back in New York, everybody wears black all the time. And there's a little white cat hair on it. It's like, what? I just pulled this out of the dryer. Right.
So our last question, how did you come across the name Fur Zapper?
Well, we wanted to find a name that really kind of just focus on what the product does. So we wanted the name to say what it does. So it's fur. Obviously, it's pet fur. Also works for lint and dander and other things. But fur was the biggest offender to laundry. And zapper was just a nice, strong phrase. It's a hard, thick phrase that kind of just demonstrates that it's taking care of it. It's zapping it. It's removing it. So we probably had 100 different names to choose from, and we just narrowed it down to that one.
Okay.
Well, I think that's an excellent name.
So go to
Furzapper.com.
Yeah, go to furzapper.com and get your fur zapped.
Right.
And everybody will be happier for it. So thanks so much, Michael, for being on the show.
No problem. Thank you.
And we look forward to your continued success.
So you're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710 with our special guest, Dave Carvajal, and we will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. You've been listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt. Really some fantastic technology out there, some fantastic companies and fantastic products. Kenya, it's time for our Power Move segment. Tell us what you've got lined up for us tonight.
Yes, so we're going to talk about cereal creator Nick King. He's the creator of Legacy Cereal Brands. And what he wanted to do is he saw that there was a disparity in nutritional value, particularly in the multicultural community when it came to sugar and diabetes and so on and so forth. So he wanted to create the first cereal of its kind that speaks to not just the multicultural community, but offers an alternative to the sugary things that are out there. So he came up with a cereal called Proud Puffs. He's been featured a lot lately. He's been on Inside Edition, all these different media outlets. And I just wanted to give a kudos to him for thinking right outside the box and creating a solution that really is going to help the community.
Outside the box, did you mean that as a pun?
Well, yes, congratulations. I mean, cereal's been around forever, but not everybody can eat it. And to make it something that doesn't like spike your blood sugar and doesn't cause all these other bad things is a really good idea, I think.
Yeah, he's sort of a serial killer, isn't he?
Literally. Well, diabetes is the number one cause, one of the number one causes of death in the multicultural community. And it comes from a lot of different reasons, right? From not having access to resources and not being able to afford a nutritional diet. So one of his goals there was to make sure that there was an affordable solution for people to eat and enjoy and healthy, right?
Yeah.
And it's for everyone. We should all be eating like that.
Well, we had, you remember Dr. Juan, who we had on the show a couple of weeks ago with his plant-based junk food. And it was, he shipped some to us. It was really tasty. And it just goes to show, I mean, it's healthy.
Not actually junk food. It's pretend junk food. It's actually healthy food.
Right.
Pretending to be junk food.
Right. But it tastes like junk food and looks like junk food, but it's made out of what? Kidney beans or
navy beans is the first ingredient. Yeah.
And so we're evolving as a species. We're learning how to make our junk food healthy, which I think is the best news of all. So
always good.
Always good. Well, thank you for that, Kenya. And now it's time for our fireside update. My lovely wife, Elizabeth Gerhardt, has started an incredible company, Fireside Directory. So why don't you tell us about that?
I shall. So for those of you who don't know, Fireside Directory is a video directory of small businesses. It's the first of its kind, pretty much, I think. And I want it to be the Wikipedia of small business by video. It's a YouTube channel and a website. I interview, I'm in phase 1 right now, which is content creation and gathering. So I'm interviewing small business owners and putting them on the YouTube channel and asking them to start a page on the website. And phase 2 is going to be marketing to the general public, but I'm not there yet because I have to have something to market, right? And also scaling would involve asking for videos from any source, right? Not having to do a bunch of interviews myself. But right now, building it, I have to show that there's something there. So I am interviewing lots of really fascinating business owners. The interviews can be a little bit long sometimes, but I think what I've decided to do when I get some investment money from friends and family is
you want more? Are you in that pre-IPO stage?
Family is I think what will be effective. I ask everybody in 10 seconds, give me what makes you special. Why would I hire you instead of somebody else that does the same thing you do? What is your special value? And so those little 10-second vignettes from the videos, I want to cut those out and have those really be listed on the directory with the longer video behind them, but that's going to cost money to do. But I think for a directory, you're expecting like a 10-second thing. You're not expecting a 10-minute thing.
Right. Yeah. And the idea is if you're like looking for attorneys and you can watch a few videos all in one place and pick one that seems to jive with your values and your approach. Or if you're looking for business coaches, you could do the same thing there and find the one that appeals to you without having to make a bunch of phone calls. And at least get some ideas of what they're like and whether you think that they'd be a good person to work with.
Right. And in collecting the data, I got some good advice at the beginning, just see what categories populate the best. But what I'm finding is I need to split the site, which with website help I would do, into B2B and B2C. And then within those categories, location-based and not location-based, because I'm getting everything right now. I really do want it to be like Wikipedia, like everything, but organized better.
So that sounds like a great project. And where can everybody find out about Fireside?
Yes. So the name is fireside.directory of the website. The YouTube channel is Fireside Directory. And you can look on my LinkedIn to see, all my information is on my LinkedIn, which is Elizabeth Gerhardt. So
great. So we'll take a break right after this and we'll be back for our final wrap up. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit. It was an amazing show tonight.
This was like a heavy duty knowlge show.
It was
business advice, really good business advice.
My brain is bursting, and I'll never forget that story about the people who stole the invention and then turned around and sued the people they stole it from. I mean, they belong in idiot jail or something. It's just like,
is there such a thing?
I don't know. I'd probably be put there for multiple occasions. Anyway, so before we sign off, a couple of final words from our guest. Dave, do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, look, first I would say thank you for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be here with you folks and to share some insights and wisdom that I've gleaned. Part of the reason I love what I do in working with entrepreneurs is because I get to learn so much about, any number of businesses and industries. And I would say, to any entrepreneurs out there, I would say, look, keep the faith, work hard. The journey of entrepreneurship is challenging. It's not easy. Like you've made a decision to really kind of transform your lives, right? Like I truly believe that entrepreneurship, if it's anything, it's a journey of transformation, not just of yourself, but if you're fortunate, transforms your family, your community, and even the world, right? And these things are not easy. And I would say, one of the best things you can do is just surround yourself by the best people you could possibly do. It's often said that, you're often the 5 people that you spend the most time with is a reflection of who you are, right? And I would say, keep pushing, push hard. Those 5 people you surround yourself with, it's become significantly easier now because of social media, because you can listen to podcasts and YouTube channels and books, right? And the important thing is to get the information, right? Learn the conceptual models and keep pushing, keep striving to achieve that greater purpose.
That's fantastic. Christian, what about your final thoughts?
Well, again, I want to thank you both as well. This has been a great experience and great getting to know some of the other guests here as well. I look forward to hearing more. For me, if anyone there is looking to have a different experience, if they need to work with an architect on the corporate side of things, whether that's an office space or a new building, anywhere in the United States, between myself and partners here, we're licensed throughout all 50 states. And so, we can make what can sometimes be a daunting process a lot easier and actually kind of fun along the way. So with that, again, thank you very much.
Kenya?
Sure. Well, listen, thank you for having me as always. A show is always great when you can learn a lot. And I learned a lot about a lot of different things today. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who spoke and presented today. Lots of good information. And that's why people tune into Passage to Profit. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this.
Well, we appreciate that. So Kenya never likes to toot her own horn, but this show is really her idea. And we love working with her in iHeart. And if you want to be on the radio, or if you need digital media advice or anything like that, Kenya is the person to go to. And her email is kenyagibson with the P at iHeartMedia.com.
And I always like to put in a plug here for iHeart Digital Media. We've been working with them now for several years, and the results they've gotten are just fantastic. So if you're looking for digital media consultants, iHeart people are top notch.
Speaking of getting great results, so our guest, Dave Carvajal, and I think it's easier if you go to davepartners.com than trying to remember how to spell his last name. No offense, but everybody always spells our name wrong. But he has a book, Hire Smart from the Start. Go to page 97. He's built billion-dollar companies. He knows how to do it. He really, it's a great book to read if you're trying to get a team together for your company.
Absolutely.
And then we had Christian Giordano as our executive spotlight, who also gave a donation to Students to Science. Thank you. So he has the coolest, newest way to do architecture that I've heard of. VR. So I want to build a building just to use him.
It's kind of inspiring. You think of a lot of other service professions, and you wonder if that technology could be applied, and that type of technology could somehow be applied elsewhere.
Well, he's the first one doing it here, it seems like. So,
well, architecture is an obvious example, but what about accounting? Is there a way to visualize?
I don't know. But
anyway, some creative accountant will have to figure that out.
His website is manciniduffy.com, manciniduffy.com. So mostly commercial real estate. He does the inside of buildings. He does buildings from the ground up. He's done one here in Summit, New Jersey that I'm dying to drive by now. I want to see it.
Beautiful interiors and exteriors, just top of the line stuff.
Right. And then we had AlexisSamuels with his financial literacy game app. And he has a book, tabletop game, Road to Prosperity. But his website is FinLitX, FinLitX.com. Very cool app using the latest technology to teach kids, and I think people up to 100 years old, anybody really, the consequences of their financial decisions and how to make the right ones.
That is so huge. We like to say money doesn't buy happiness, but for sure, managing money well does buy happiness. And we all need those. We all need those lessons. So, and he's a Gerhardt Law client.
And he's a Gerhardt Law client. And
yes.
Yeah. And our final presenter, his product is literally flying off the shelves into the clothes dryers of every animal owner in the country. Michael Sweigart with the FurZapper.com. That's his website.
Create lots of clothing happiness.
Yes,
your clothes will be pet hair.
Thank you.
Yes, it takes the pet hair out of your clothes in your dryer at home, and you look so much better when your clothes look cleaner. Right.
So before we go, I'd like to say thank you to all of the special people that make Passage to Profit possible. I'd like to thank Noah Fleischman, our producer at iHeart Studios, Alicia Morrissey, our program coordinator, Angela Wolf, our video producer, and don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and follow us on our YouTube channel. This is Richard Gerhardt and Elizabeth Gerhardt signing off for Passage to Profit, iHeart Radio, WOR 710, the voice of New York.